Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another 4 p.m. Bible study. My name is Jim Schaefer, and I share with you every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. We have just started a brand new study, and we are looking at the subject of divine disruption. It is my belief that Christianity, and especially the birth of Jesus Christ, was the greatest historical disruption that this world has ever seen. Now, I want to look in particular today at how the birth of Jesus Christ disrupted the Roman Empire. So, we need to understand at the very outset that the birth of Jesus Christ was the most significant and disruptive event in human history. It marked the fulfillment of ancient prophecies and the arrival of a long awaited Messiah, the dawn of a new era of salvation and grace. But it also caused a great deal of turmoil and opposition among the political and the religious leaders of the time, as well as among the ordinary people who witnessed the birth of Christ or who at least heard about it. In the next few lessons, I want to examine a number of ways that the birth of Jesus Christ was a disruption, and in particular, how the birth of Jesus Christ was a disruption to the Roman Empire. Now, the Roman Empire is a fascinating subject in and of itself. The Roman Empire was the dominant political and military force in the world at the time of Jesus' birth. It ruled over a vast territory that included Judea and Samaria and many other areas. In fact, let's take a quick look at the map to get a feel for just how large the Roman Empire was. Now, this is a diagram showing it during the first century, during the time of Christ. At its peak, the Roman Empire would encompass 2 million square miles. The population would be somewhere between 50 and 90 million people. This is really quite an incredible empire in and of itself. Now, as we take a look at the Roman Empire, we understand that the Romans imposed heavy taxes and harsh laws upon their subjects, and they demanded loyalty, and they demanded the worship of their emperor and their gods. They also tolerated and exploited some of the existing religious and ethnic divisions that were among the people that they conquered, such as the Jews and the Samaritans. Now, the birth of Jesus Christ was a direct challenge to the Roman Empire. It proclaimed the arrival of a new and greater king who was not of this world, but of God. Now, it's important for us to remember that the the Roman people believed that Caesar, or their emperor, was God. In fact, one of the terms that is used is divi filius, which means son of a god, or the divine son. Augustus, the first Roman emperor, popularized this title, and it even appeared on their coinage, and I've kind of given you a little glimpse of that. Now, as we take a look at our text for the day, we're going to find it in Matthew, the 2nd chapter, and we're going to be looking at verses 1 through 8. I do encourage you to take a look at the highlighted words that I have. We're told in Matthew, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod. Now, both Matthew and Luke give us a really good timetable as to when this is taking place. The birth of Jesus Christ wasn't an event that was separate from time and space and history. We know exactly when Jesus was born. We know who the rulers were at the time. And King Herod is the ruling king of Judea. All right, we're going to talk about him a little bit more in just a few moments. We are then told that Magi, and that's an interesting word, and we'll examine it in just a few moments, came from the east to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews?" Not somebody who has become the King of the Jews, not someone who has gone through the ranks and has suddenly found himself as the king, but one who has been the king from the beginning, one who was born King of the Jews. He goes on and it says, "We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed. Now, I want you to notice that word there because it's going to take on even greater importance here in just a few moments. When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed. Not only was he disturbed, but look at the next line, "and all Jerusalem with him." When he had called together all of the people's chief priests, and I've kind of highlighted that word peoples, all right? You'll see why in a moment. When he had called together all of the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written." And then, of course, he provides the passage of Scripture. "But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." The text goes on and it says, "Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, 'Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I too may go and worship him.'" So let's take a look at some of the key figures in this story. We're told, first of all, about Herod Augustus, or also known as Herod the Great. Herod the Great was appointed by Rome as the king of Judea. Because Herod was pro-Roman, and he really wasn't a Jew in the truest sense of the word, most Jews resented his appointment. In 20 BC, approximately 20 years before Christ will be born, Herod began to rebuild the second temple to appease his subjects. Now remember, the temple was originally called Solomon's temple. It was built by Solomon, but it was destroyed, all right, by the Babylonians when they came. And now a second temple had been built. And Herod, in an attempt to get on the good side of the Jews, he refurbished and enlarged and expanded the temple. Now, the Jewish historian Josephus tells us that Herod wasn't a very nice individual. Herod had murdered his wife, her brother and father, along with his own friends. He murdered hundreds of military leaders, and he even killed 3 of his own sons, accusing them of treason. Herod was known as a paranoid and treacherous king who committed atrocities against the Jews. So that's who we're talking about in this particular scenario. Now, the second thing that I want you to notice is the term magi. The magi, who were they? Were they kings like the old song says? The answer is probably no. The idea that they were kings came out of the 2nd century, and they were promoted to kings by many of the religious leaders of the time. But most scholars seem to believe that the magi were wise men who served kings. The term is used in the Hebrew in the book of Daniel. If you remember, Daniel had a group of wise men, and he was considered the leader of the wise men, or the magi, and that's the Greek term that is used here. The truth is, we don't really know where they came from. We don't really know who they were, and we're not even positive how many there were. Now, we have traditionally believed that there were 3 wise men, and that is based solely upon the fact that they had 3 gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and we assume that that was 1 gift per wise man. But there could have been additional individuals. Now, the picture that I have placed there before you was done by Dwight Longnecker, and he pictures this whole caravan. And so we have within this story these wise men coming to the city of Jerusalem. And I would guess that their appearance in Jerusalem caused quite a stir. Apart from the effect that they're going to have on Herod, we're going to see that the whole city is in an uproar. Now, I have placed 3 names for you there. These names have been passed on through history as possibly the name of the 3 magi. They were Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar. Now, again, are these without doubt the names? Oh, we probably don't know for sure, but I think it's a fascinating tidbit of history. What we do know is that these men caused a disturbance as they came into the city of Jerusalem. The text goes on to tell us that Herod was terrified, all right, or troubled. The text is rather interesting. We saw in the text, and let me see if I can find it here, when King Herod heard this, he was disturbed. That term disturbed there is a Greek term, and I'm going to attempt to pronounce it. It is itarakta. That's at least the definition that I've seen, or the pronunciation that I've seen. The idea of itarakta, and it means to be troubled, or to be terrified, or to be thrown into confusion. Now, it's a form of this word that is used to describe the disciples' fear when they saw Jesus walking on the water in the midst of the storm. Remember the text, we just taught this a few weeks ago. When they saw Jesus, they thought he was a ghost, and they were terrified. It's this same word that is being used here in the text. So the question that I really want to ask you is, what's going on here? Why is Herod so terrified? And how troubled was he? Was he slightly bothered to have his day interrupted by these 3 wise men? Or is his fear much greater? Now, the word in the Greek can have a layer of meanings. And so we can't really judge the level of fear or disturbance based on the word alone. To start with, Herod wants to simply, to begin with, he simply hears what these wise men have said. And it causes him sufficient concern. It causes him sufficient anxiety to call upon the religious leaders of the day. Now, I want you to remember, I pointed out the word, the peoples, all right? Let me see if I can quote it to you again. When he had called together all of the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, it's as if Matthew is trying to indicate here that they're not his, all right, chief priests. They're not his teachers of the law because he's not really a Jew. But these are the Jewish teachers of the law, the Jewish chief priests. He calls them together because this word of a person that has been born as King of the Jews has disturbed him enough that he is calling together the authorities. He consults with the experts. He consults with the chief priests and the scribes to get their interpretation. He's disturbed sufficiently to call in these biblical scholars. And after hearing what they have to say, his fear level increases. We are told in the text that he secretly meets with the wise men. So the question that I wanted to ask you here is, why would he secretly meet with the wise men? What's the purpose of him meeting with them privately? Well, I think things are getting out of hand as far as Herod is concerned. A new king not only threatens Herod's position, but it puts him in a precarious position in the eyes of the Roman emperor. The idea that on his watch, he has allowed one who is called the King of the Jews to wander into his territory and his domain and potentially undermine his authority and the Roman Empire? Well, the birth of Jesus Christ sparks a violent reaction in Herod. He's doing everything he can to keep a lid on this news. He's going to meet with them privately, secretly. It was big news. Not only was Herod upset, but our text tells us that the entire city is in an uproar as well. Now, Herod knew that the Jews were waiting for the Messiah, and he wasn't taking any chances. He met with the Magi secretly because he was scheming. He was trying to take advantage of the wise men. And his instinct is to keep everything as quiet as possible without giving away his plan. He questions the wise men about when the star first appeared in the sky. Herod wants to find and kill this newborn king. I mean, that's what he does. He murders and kills all of those who are a threat to his throne. He sends the wise men out and he tells them, go find this one that you call the King of the Jews. And when you have found him, come back to me and tell me where he is so that I too may worship him. Fat chance. He wasn't interested in worshiping him. He wants the wise men to return to tell him where the child is so he can send someone to kill the child. When the wise men don't return, he then orders the massacre of all of the male children in Bethlehem and its vicinity. Everyone who was 2 years old or under. That's the reason he wanted to know, when did the star appear? He was trying to gauge how old the child might be. Now we know, according to the text, that the wise men went to Bethlehem. They don't find Jesus in the manger. I know that surprises a lot of people. But in fact, they find him in a house. All right. Jesus could have been anywhere between 1.5 and 2 years of age when they arrive. And so they refuse to go back to the king, and Jesus and his parents, being warned in a dream, take off for Egypt. And there they stay in Egypt until Herod has died, until Herod has passed away. Now Herod, he will live until about, 5 to 6 years after Jesus is born. He is going to die. And it is then and only then that the Christ child and his parents are able to return to Nazareth, which is the city where they were from. At least temporarily, the divine disruption has been quelled for now. Because the truth is, the Roman Empire is in for an uprising, something to challenge it. Now, I didn't bother, I don't think, to share with you a few of the statistics about this. Maybe I did. I'm getting old and I don't remember what I did 5 minutes ago. I think I stated to you that there were about 2 million square miles that made up the Roman Empire, and somewhere between 50 and 90 million people. The news of the Messiah is going to link out until the whole world is being touched by his presence. We're going to pick up here in our next lesson on Thursday. And we're going to be looking at that time of how the birth of Jesus Christ disrupted the Jewish people. Yes, there was a disruption of the Roman Empire, but we're going to see there was a disruption of the religious authorities in Jerusalem and in all of Judea. I want to encourage you to take a moment to like the video, to make some comments. Let me see if I can find a quick picture here as to who has joined us today. This is always difficult for some reason. It does not want to show me. Always difficult. All right. Does not want. I see Corey Schmidt. Hello, Corey. Nice to have you with us. Robin Sharkey, Evelyn McGuire. My wife is here. Others, thank you for watching today. Don't forget, you can see all of these videos, including this one here, will be posted on my YouTube channel, which is www.youtube.com/@JimSchaefer8933/playlists. All right. I want to encourage you again to go to the YouTube channel, to subscribe to the channel. That helps me to reach so many more people. And while you're there, please make a comment or two as well. It helps so much with the YouTube algorithms and helps to promote that channel to other people to see. So let me encourage you to do that. Continue to make comments there on Facebook, and I'll continue to reply to each and every one of you. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we will see you all on Thursday.